Welcome to the Meet the Team podcast. I am Brady Jolly. I'm here with my good friend, Eric Sinclair. Eric has been with us a long time. He's in sewer. He's a lead sewer installer, licensed journeyman plumber, right? So just going to learn a little bit about what you do for us, man. So,
All right.
Yeah, why don't you just start personal life, what you do for fun, that sort of stuff.
Personal life, I have 2 kids. They're 2 and 3. They take up a lot of my time at home. Live on a farm, have some cows, gonna have some chickens.
You're getting chickens?
Raise a garden, gonna get a couple chickens.
Nice.
Yeah. Eggs are
eggs?
Eggs are $7 a dozen. So yeah, we're gonna get some eggs. Got the coop last night.
Sweet.
I have 3 siblings. I'm the older of all my brothers, so I get to pick on them a little bit still in adult life. But yeah, I started in plumbing. Obviously I knew you as a young kid and started working here for a little bit, went away from it for a little bit, and then came back, and I love it now. Got my license. And
So when you came here, you were how old were you when you started?
man, I couldn't have been any more than 20.
You were-
I feel like that first time, yeah.
And then you worked here for what, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, it was like 2.5 years. Wasn't sure that it was really what I wanted to do with my career, so I kind of went and looked elsewhere. I worked at Tyson Foods for about 5 years. Didn't want to do that either. So then I came back to plumbing, said I'll try it again, and for whatever reason, it just took off, man. I loved it, and the company was different. The growth and the culture had really changed, and so wonderful. It was a good place to work before, but it had really grown in those 5 years.
And then how long have you been back?
3 years in May.
3 years.
Yeah,
So you've
3
got
years.
about five or 6 years in
Yeah,
total.
yeah.
Tell us about that difference, because you have a unique perspective. Like that was kind of right when I was kind of taking over the business from my dad, and obviously it was just a lot different, better or worse. It was just a lot different.
Yeah.
Talk about the difference that you experienced.
The difference is, the big thing I would say, maybe organization might be the word for it. There might be a better word, but organization and just getting out there, efficiency. That organization leads to better efficiency and just getting the jobs done on time and not taking longer than you need to, having all the parts, having parts runners bring stuff out to you, dispatchers to set up the job, get all the notes ready so that you're prepared when you go. There's not 2 hours of, okay, what are we doing here? You show up and you're ready.
No doubt. What drew you back to Jolly, and why did you want to come back into the business?
Part of it was kind of the unfulfilled. I had done it for 2 years, never got my license, and I was like, you know what? I think I need to at least get to that point and then see where I'm at. And also I knew some people that worked here still, and I kind of talked to them. They said, yeah, man, you should come back and try it again. It's great. I'm like, okay, I'll try it. And I'm so happy I did.
Man, it's cool because you've worked in like so many different departments here.
Yeah.
And you go through like what you did before you left and then what you did when you came back and like why and how those things changed.
Yeah. So the first time I worked here, I was just a helper. I was cutting pipe, handing it down to guys, grabbing tools, stuff like that, learning the trade. And that was pretty much the extent of it the first time. I didn't really operate excavators or anything like that. But then when I came back, I started in service, trained in service, ran a service van for a little bit. I like that. Very busy, lots of work, but I like that. Then we did the sewer sales. Doing the camera inspections and giving bids. I really like that. But I wasn't utilizing my license for that. That was a big reason I kind of wanted to switch from that. I got my license, but I wasn't plumbing. I was just doing camera work, which was fine. But then, a sewer lead position opened up, man. I went for it, and I've learned to operate excavators now. I learned a little bit of concrete work, and so I'm getting better. And so I think the opportunities for growth as well, to go back to your earlier question, is another big thing. It wasn't stagnant back then, but there just wasn't as much growth built in. So
yeah, man,
I
and
definitely
like
noticed that.
from a company standpoint, what a tool you are seeing every aspect of the company. We don't have a lot of guys that have had apprentice to service tech to sales, now install lead. It's pretty sweet. And then I wanted to talk to you about the sewer liners. When you were coming back was right around the time that we bought.
Yeah, you guys got it within like 3 months of me coming back.
Yeah, and when that sewer installer position came available, me knowing, being buddies and knowing your background with the science and chemistry and everything else that you've always been into, sewer installers typically aren't good at the liner at first because,
Right.
you know, same here. I'm used to digging.
Yeah.
Like I've grown up on the sewer installed. You go dig, you install pipe, you know, crap runs downhill.
Yep.
You put it together.
Yep.
You're not used to this like this process that's very scientific
Yeah.
and measured and analytical. So like for everybody listening, Eric is extremely smart, like a biochemist. Well, I don't even know what you did in college, but chemistry type guy. So I was like, dude, we got to get you here to look at to help us with this, because at first sewer lining, we were bad at it.
Tough,
We
yeah.
were bad at it
Yeah.
at first,
It's
everybody's got better. But about that, like how your skill set and what you studied in college and everything else,
Okay.
and then if that ties in or like those skills and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a very precise install type of job. I mean, it's very particular. You know, you have to be right on your mark, and your pressures have to be right and everything. So, I guess compared to what I've kind of learned, you know, through school and stuff, it's more so attention to detail. I think really making sure that everything is set up correctly when you start. Because if you have parts and stuff not there ready, then you're running around and jumping around. So the setup for those liners is huge. You know, when you dig a sewer, you show up with the excavator, you start digging.
Yeah.
You know, and then you lay the pipe. With a liner, you know, you've got to get all the equipment in there, get your measurements right, get it loaded. Everyone's got to be on the same page, working together. And the chemistry part of it, yeah, it's cool. I mean, we do the UV cure. We use that UV light spectrum to harden that liner. Really, really cool technology. I mean, whoever came up with that is probably loving it right now. They're probably just hanging out, you know, just loving it.
It's insane. Talk about like when you were in college and in school, what you studied, and then what you kind of thought your career would be, and then how that took a turn and why, and you know why you ended up in the trades. I find so many times like you have all kinds of people that if you'd asked them when they were in school, or you think you ever be a plumber, they'd say no way, no, I'm going to do something else. But what drew you back? Talk about your experience in school, that sort of stuff.
Yeah, so I never thought I would be a plumber. I'll say that. I never thought I'd be a plumber or in the trades really at all. My dad was, my brother is. I just never thought I would be. So I studied like biology and chemistry mostly in college. Lots of science, lots of math. I really enjoyed it. I was good at it. Never really pushed myself to do like independent research or anything at college with professors and stuff. That's kind of how you get that experience for when you apply for jobs. But still, after I left college, I still applied. You know, I applied at Perfetti. I applied at multiple different places in Ohio and over in the Hebron kind of Union Industrial Complex over there. Got some interviews. Wasn't really interested in anything that much, you know, and was just kind of looking around. And I saw that you all were hiring online. Talked to some people. They're like, yeah, it's different now. It's, you know, better culture and all that. I'm like, okay, I'll try it out. So it wasn't that. You know, it wasn't that I didn't like that field at all, but yeah, when I considered my career trajectory, I'm like, okay, do I want to work in a lab every day somewhere for the next 30 years, or do I want to try this and be out in the field and with people and at different locations and learning different things? And so I think that really fits me a little better. I'm not super social, but I am pretty social. I mean,
man, you got to be one of the favorite employees of everybody here. You know, I mean, we call Eric Bob, and Bob's definitely people's favorites around here. You won the ACE Award recently, right?
Yeah, recently. Yeah.
So that's nominated by other employees, which was awesome. Yeah. Back to the chemistry thing, man. Like, you know, I don't know anything about chemistry or anything really, but I just think like it's such a cool and unique tie back to plumbing because of the like just to your point, the technical detail and attention to detail and specifics and precision, like that's like it kind of is a lost art in our trade. I think, you know, like the old timers, they were like, so, you know, everything lined up perfect, no glue showing, no like everything perfect. And like you being able to bring that back from your background, I think it's really unique perspective. You know, we have a lot of people from the food industry. We have a lot of like servers, people that from other trades, but I think you're our only science guy for sure. But it's cool. It's and I think it's a perfect example of like what almost any trade, anything that you're doing outside of the trades there can be a way to relate it back to the trades.
Yeah, for sure.
What would you say, Eric, to like young people that are not sure exactly what they want to do in their career and might consider the trades?
Yeah, so with plumbing specifically, it sounds kind of cliche, but you see the posters and supply houses and companies. If you go, the posters will say, plumbers protect the health of the nation. Sounds a little cliche, but that's kind of like the motivation behind what I do is, you show up every day and you're going to go and fix somebody's problem. They're not able to use their sewer. They don't have hot water. You're not just going in and fixing a little drywall patch. Like you're taking care of something that is going to give them peace of mind, and it's going to make the home more healthy, and so that's my motivation for plumbing. With the trades in general, I would say, it kind of translates across the board, carpentry, welding, electrician, HVAC, whatever. You're providing a service that is going to allow people to use, the niceties of modern life, right? They have lights, you have air conditioning, heat, you're providing these services that we rely on to have a comfortable life and to be able to expand our technology and stuff. So, office jobs are great. We need accountants, we need mathematicians and lawyers and all that, but we also need people to keep up the infrastructure.
No doubt.
It's a big part.
Growing up, watching your dad, he was a carpenter, right? Yeah. Watching him in the trades, how have you seen it change from watching him and then now, what you're experiencing?
I would say safety probably would be maybe a big thing. Like I know OSHA was probably around back then, but
they were doing crazy stuff.
Yeah, and to put it in perspective, my dad is a bit older. I'm 32 and my dad is 80. So he was retired by the time I got to middle school. So I didn't get to experience tons of him being like a foreman, on there, but he would talk about it all the time and would have blueprints. He'd have big, blueprint packets at home. So, I guess it's changed in terms of like technology for sure, because I know when they're doing carpentry now, they get prefab stuff, and I'm sure they have it all lined out on a nice some sort of like technology spreadsheet, or they develop it all with software, and I'm sure that's different now. But I would think the efficiency of carpentry has improved a lot in the last 30 or 40 years.
Yeah.
So.
Well, just the technology in general, everything.
Everything
and everything, right? So, I ask everybody when you get a job, you've had being in all the departments, you've crawl spaces, attics, everything. What is like when you get the job and what's it say that you're like, man, this is like my least favorite type of job to get?
I got one. Yeah. So I would say when I get job details and I see a job, what I like the least or know is going to be kind of a bear to work with is if we are replacing the sewer pipe underneath of the foundation, under the footer. If we're replacing a section inside the house and outside. Doing that part that's going out under that footer can be really, really difficult. You really have to open that space up to get that pipe out of there. And sometimes it goes good, but in my experience, it usually takes more time than you think it's going to.
It can be challenging.
It can be challenging. And it's really just a patience game is all it is. You just have to keep digging that dirt out, keep moving it out, keep wiggling that pipe, and eventually you'll get it out of there. But it can be a real bear, and so that can put you behind.
So when you're talking about crawl spaces, when you're in a crawl space, what's like the last thing that you want to see when you're in there?
Not too much bothers me. Like mice, snakes, spiders, that really doesn't bother me. You guys provide us with Tyvek suits, so if there is some sewage down there, you just crawl in there. But I'm not claustrophobic, but I'm a pretty big guy. So if it's a really tight crawl space, that can get a little, mentally, it can challenge you a little bit.
Yeah, you're pretty tough with that stuff. Usually there's something that spooks people, but I don't see that with you.
Not too much. The only thing is, if it gets too tight in there and I can't move, that can get a little hairy sometimes. But crawl spaces and doing those liners. A lot of times we do those liners in basements so we don't have to destroy the yard. And those old basements and those old houses are tight.
Yeah,
a lot of times there's not a lot of room, and that's a lot of equipment down there. So that can be kind of tough too. But
yeah. Hey, tell me about the experience with your license, getting your license, why you got it, what was the process like, that sort of thing.
Yeah. So when I worked here the first time, there wasn't a huge push like across management and stuff for people to get their license. Like that, they would help them. They would provide support for that to happen. But when I came back this time, it was. That's what you wanted. You wanted to have as many licensed plumbers on your staff as you could. That shows professionalism. It shows experience. It shows that the company is willing to help your employees train and get better. The process was I came back, you guys provided in-house classes, for us to study and work on the skills. Then I just signed up and took it. I had to take it a couple times to pass. but I pass now, and I'm going to keep it forever. And it's a great feeling, it's kind of like getting your driver's license. It's you're the equivalent of everyone else that has that license, but there's definitely levels to it.
100%.
It's just like you get a license at 16 driving, you're not as good of a driver as that 50-year-old, but
That's a good way to put it.
it is. And that's what I tell my coworkers as well. Like, it's a great thing, but you don't stop there. It's not like I got my license, so now I don't have to learn anything else. It's a constant learning curve. You're constantly learning new things and doing new things. And, that way, when you are 40 or 50, you can really say, like, I know what I'm doing. Like, I know anything that comes my way. I've done it before. I know how to get it together.
Yeah, it's fulfilling, man.
Very fulfilling.
You wanna get your license, right? And there's hardly anybody that ever takes their test the first time and passes it. It's one of those things you have to learn what it's like and what's the process. It's challenging, right?
You have to learn what you don't know. That way you can go and learn it.
And there's a lot of people that take it, fail it the first time, and don't go back to get it, which that's always a bummer.
Yeah, right? I think they get discouraged, but you really shouldn't get discouraged, man, because you're going to do better the next time. You're not going to do worse. You just study more, and you'll do better, and eventually you'll pass it. And once you pass it, you just have to do your continuing education, and you can keep it. So it's a very nice process that they have set up. The inspectors are great. The people that teach the classes at Gateway are great. You can take those classes if you're a classroom type person like I am. I probably could have studied on my own and done okay, but I think taking that class at Gateway really prepared me for success.
Cool.
Yeah.
So we talk a lot about our mission, vision, and values. That's just something we redid about a year ago.
Yeah.
What are some of the values or something about the mission statement that sticks out the most to you and resonates the most with you?
And the mission statement is reimagining the way the world experiences home services.
Yep.
And there are a bunch of of tenets for that. The ones that stick out to me is don't hesitate to educate. That's a big thing with Jolly. I think, years past, companies, you'd probably go in and replace the water heater and leave and maybe talk to the customer for just a couple minutes.
Yeah.
And that's fine, but you don't build that relationship with the customer. They don't learn anything. So, if they come down asking questions, I want to answer every question that they have about their system. Anything that I'm able to answer, and if I can't, I'll find the answer for them. That way, when we leave, it's not just like, oh, yeah, they came in, did it, we paid them, and that was it. No, they had an experience. I learned. The homeowner learned. So don't hesitate to educate and be the name, which is Jolly. Have a good attitude, even, if the job's going bad or it's raining outside or it's cold or whatever. Have that good attitude, transfer that attitude to the customer because they're having a bad time too. They don't have hot water. They can't flush their toilet. So if you're in a bad attitude, that's going to transfer to them and it's just going to bring everything down.
Yeah, we see people usually on one of their worst days.
Yeah.
They're not having a good day.
No.
So us being positive, and I think you do a really good job of that.
Yeah.
That's a great lead into the service system that we teach, and I think that's unique and something different than the first time you were here.
Yeah.
We didn't really have a great system of exactly how a Jolly employee interacted with the customer. Can you talk about what that means to you and how you think that improves what we do and gives great service to the customer?
Yeah, so I think trust is something right off the bat. I mean, you might have used Jolly before, but you're inviting strangers essentially into your home. Like, you might know my name. When I get dispatched to your home, it sends you my name and a little bio about me, but that's pretty much it. You have strangers in your home. So we have to build that trust and let them know we're going to take care of your home. We're going to take care of you. Anything that comes up, we'll communicate that with you. So I think that's a big part of the service system, trust. And then
talk a little bit about like the just what it means to have a process, like a 6-step process that we have. And this is probably more, now that you're in install, the process is a little different. But for the listeners, our process is a 6-step process that we train religiously. Everybody here is very familiar with it. Like, what's it like to know, hey, these are the 6 steps that I need to do on the job versus maybe the first time that you worked here.
Yeah.
It was just like, hey, go out and make sure the customer's happy. And that there wasn't like a procedure or walls to that process.
Yeah, I think you pretty well standardize it kind of. You made a standard work essentially to where, there is some leeway within those steps for how the technician would like to carry that out, but it keeps it consistent. So you might have me out one year, you have that experience. Well, maybe next year you have another problem. totally different crew or technicians out there, and you're going to receive that same level of trust and comfort and attention to detail, even if it's slightly different, whereas in the past, you might have one guy show up and he doesn't like talking to people at all. The customer might have a bad experience, and then you have someone out a couple months later and it's like, wow, this was totally different. Or maybe they don't call us back,
Sure.
because they didn't have a good experience. So the 6-step service system keeps it to where there's consistency amongst technicians, consistency among the work and communication. And I think it just helps build that relationship, and it helps maintain customers and create new customers.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, that's a great answer. Is there anything you've ever pulled out of a sewer or toilet or drain or anything that's crazy?
Oh, yeah. Disposable tobacco vapes, chargers for tobacco vapes, contact lens cases.
That's the teenagers flushing their vapes.
Yeah. Yep. And I pulled a little travel-sized stick of deodorant out of a toilet trap once. Had to bust the toilet up to get it out because we couldn't get it out. Some other crazy stuff. I mean, we shot a liner once, and the customer's line tied right into a manhole, and the pressure from it actually popped the manhole up a little bit. And if anyone doesn't know, those manhole lids weigh a good bit.
Yeah.
And it didn't pop it up a lot, but it did move it a little bit. So that was kind of cool in terms of like the chemistry or like pressure side of things, to show how much pressure is actually used to blow those new liners in. Other than that, cutting open sewers that are still backed up and seeing that nice black gold, just
nice.
that nice black gold just come rushing up.
It.
Yeah. That's always fun. And then, crazy stuff that happens is, sometimes not everything's marked. So, utilities and stuff, sometimes you might hit a water line and then, you might get a little wet. Crazy things, like I've never seen rats or snakes in a sewer. Plenty of bugs, plenty of nice little critters running around. I can't think of anything crazy, man.
No, that's great.
Knock on wood, I haven't had anything too wild yet.
It's good. Well, hey, man, you are like everything that embodies what we want a Jolly employee to be. You're the man. We love you around here, and like I just love working with you. Can't thank you enough for everything you do for us. Seriously, I mean, we've been buddies a long time, and just means a lot what you do for us.
Well, thanks, boss.